One of the most overused and frequently repeated statements when it comes to cleaning up a diet is, as long as you eat in moderation, it's good. What does that mean? In this video, I really want to discuss that term and the concept of eating and drinking in moderation. Specifically, if there's truth to it and does it work. As I do in other videos, I'll also try to help you decide from your body's perspective, does moderation make sense or not? We certainly think it does, but let's talk about it. Welcome and thanks for tuning in. My name is Marcus Bailey. My goal is to help as many people as possible not only take control of their health and wellness, but give you tips and information to help make that journey more enjoyable and easier to stick to long term. This discussion will be a controversial one. I won't be surprised if a lot of people watch this video and strongly disagree, or just cut it off early because it goes against the grain of one of the most popular terms in diet and health history. That term is moderation. Let's level set here by clearly defining what that means. In nutrition, and really in most other aspects, moderation is defined as the avoidance of excess or extremes. So let me say that again. Moderation is the avoidance of excess or extremes. Essentially what we're telling ourselves when it comes to nutrition, or maybe what other people are telling us, is that there is a point, an arbitrary line, a specific boundary that exists. And as long as you stay on this side of it, you're good. But if you take one more bite, one more sip, get one more scoop, make one more plate, I'm afraid you've now officially up. And that's where my confusion starts. Confusion mainly about who sets that line. Is that line the same for everyone? Is that line based on emotional wants or physiological needs? Please stick with me as I talk through this and try to help you determine whether moderation is a myth or reality. There will be some good news at the end. And please let me know in the comments below if you agree, disagree, or if this just makes you start thinking a little bit more about the subject. The first thing that raises questions about moderation being legitimate is the fact that the word only comes up seriously in conversations when we're talking about something that people want or crave, but at the same time know that they shouldn't have. I've never heard, but maybe you have, someone be told to slow down on the veggies. Moderation, remember? It's not okay to overdo it. 8 broccolis. 8 broccolis. 9 or more will kill you. On the other hand, moderation is definitely mentioned when it comes to things like alcohol, fast food, cheesecake, candy, and soda. I used a little bit of an exaggerated example to help me illustrate the first reason why moderation is suspicious. And that's because it feels like permission based on circumstance and not science. Meaning, when the situation calls for it, I can call on moderation to come to the rescue to help me make sense of something that my instinct tells me is not good. Which leads me to the second thing that makes me question whether moderation is really a legitimate approach to nutrition. Who determines the line that can't be crossed? Normally when I hear moderation being used, it's based on the person who's using its level of satisfaction. Like person A might say, give me 1 slice. It's okay, it's in moderation. Person B says, let me get 2 more. I won't overdo it, but a few more won't hurt. Now, if moderation is based on me eating or drinking enough just to be personally satisfied, but not so much that I'm stuffed and overdoing it, have I crossed the line? What app or website is the moderation referee and authority? Because it seems like if I personally think 2 scoops of ice cream is eating in moderation, and someone behind me in line at the ice cream shop asks for 3 scoops so as not to overdo it, somebody is wrong. And that leads me to the third puzzle in this moderation theory. How do I adjust my brain to go from believing something is good to bad to okay if you eat enough, but just not too much? I really can't think of any other area of life where invoking the moderation clause helps people walk away in a much better situation. Let's say you're in a relationship. Is cheating in moderation good? It might be for the one cheating, but guess what? You don't get to make that call. What about crime? Can you steal in moderation? Well, I guess there is a level where you go from theft to grand larceny, but that really is just going from bad to worse. I'm not a lawyer, but I haven't heard of any cases argued in court where moderation saved the day for the thief. Now, you only stole enough to get by, and certainly not as much as you could have. But again, you don't get to make that call. One more. Let's use your job. You decide once every other week or so to just not show up for work. You work every other day, but just in moderation, you pull a no-call, no-show. You could certainly argue that there were way more times that you felt like staying home, but didn't and came in anyway. But you act like you're stunned when the boss calls you in the office for that talk, because again, it's not your call. When it comes to right or wrong, good or bad, positive, negative, constructive, destructive, we tend to just think of things as one or the other. But somehow when it comes to nutrition, something can be bad but good at the same time, as long as we don't eat that specific portion that goes from okay to not okay. So let's get to the summary of all this and the good news for you. The examples we just talked about all have one thing in common. They were situations where you don't make the rules. You're not the programmer of the software. You are not the master of the system. You have the freedom and power to operate within those systems and be a huge success, but you are not able to dictate the consequences of your actions. And that's where I want to start these final thoughts off at. We can control what goes from our fork to our mouth. Once we eat it or drink it, the body takes over. We don't get to control what ingredients get absorbed and which ones get passed through as waste. We don't get to eat a slice of cheesecake and then instruct our body to just slide it on down to the end of the line, as long as we promise not to eat that second slice. So the point of these analogies is things that are good for you are good for you. Things that are not are not. Also in those examples, doing something once is not a death sentence. I mean, if one can of soda immediately caused death or disease, I think we could agree that there would be a lot less money spent on advertising it to sell it to you. So more good news is you're allowed to make mistakes. I do, we all do. But here is where moderation really shows itself as a wolf in sheep's clothing. A friend, someone who really was doing what was in your best interest, would encourage you to do what's right, but accept you for the mistakes you make. Your body can be a great friend. It wants you to do well and take in things that are good for you. If you do something that's not so good, like eat a dessert that you shouldn't have a girls' night out where you may drink a few too many, stop by the fast food restaurant and order something you know is on the naughty list, it will forgive you by removing those bad things and rebuilding itself. You may not feel well for a day or two, so it's definitely expressing its disappointment in your actions, but you two will be back to BFF status in no time. Now, to be clear, we're not talking about habits here. We're not talking about addictions. We're talking about things that you may do from time to time. Moderation is no friend. It's telling you to do something intentionally that you know is bad, but only do just enough bad to fool yourself into thinking that it's actually good. Moderation tells you to go ahead and steal that item out of the store. It's not like we steal all the time. It's just one item. Moderation tells you to say that job today. Don't call. It's just one day. You worked all the other 4. Moderation says, drink that can of pop. Eat those 2 donuts. A little bit is okay. Your body won't even notice. Moderation is also not there when you get caught, when you get fired, or when you get sick. Moderation will throw you right under the bus when you call for help inside of that doctor's office. I told you to eat 2 donuts, not 3. Don't blame me, you did this to yourself. So what's the final takeaway? Good is good, bad is bad. It's good to eat and drink what's good. And it's okay to eat something or drink something that's bad from time to time. Because again, nobody is perfect. And you can feel good about yourself knowing that you acknowledge, I had a meal that was bad. I wasn't planning on doing that, but I did. And I can reset tomorrow and get right back to what's good for me. But it's not okay to trick yourself into thinking that something bad is really good, as long as you eat just enough to feel comfortable and emotionally satisfied. But no more than that, because you won't be able to feel good about yourself knowing that you are playing a mental game that your body doesn't follow the rules for. I guess what I'm saying is, don't buy into the notion that poison taken in small, non-lethal portions is a good thing compared to taking the whole bottle down in one fatal dose. We are often talked into moderation by other people who don't want to eat alone, drink alone, or binge alone, or companies that want us to buy their products a little bit at a time, enough that they make money off us repeatedly, but not too much that you get too sick to want to buy it again. Moderation is a myth. It's a trap. And unfortunately, by the time the real accumulated results of your moderation shows up, it's often in the form of a disease, condition, or number on a scale that you do not want to see. Let me know in the comments if this made sense. Did the examples help? Did your view on eating bad foods in moderation change? change? Is it easier to just look at stuff as good or bad instead of trying to convince yourself that there's some space in the middle where they both meet? If you found value in this video, please consider subscribing. Make sure that you're getting notifications so that you can keep all aspects of your health in focus: meals, movement, and mindset. Thanks for watching.